Welcome to the 11th lecture on Module 1 of the Fluid Machinery course. The objective of this lecture is to discuss briefly the basic concepts on Francis turbine, which is an inward radial flow reaction turbine. We will discuss the contents in the following sequence. The first, the constructional features of Francis turbine, its components, functions, and the working principle. Then the comparison between impulse and reaction turbines. Thereafter, velocity triangles of Francis turbine and the important relations. And finally, we will try to solve some relevant numerical problems. First of all, let me tell you what is the main distinction between impulse and reaction. Here we will consider a man-boat analogy. Consider this case when the man jumps into a boat. Because of the direct impulse, the boat will move forward. And another situation when the man jumps out of the boat. And even in this case, and there will be a movement for the boat in opposite direction. And here, as the man jumps into the boat, there is direct impulse. And here, when the man jumps out of the boat, and because of the reaction of the man's action, there is a movement to the boat. And here, you can compare the man with the fluid and the boat with the runner vane. Francis turbine is an inward radial flow reaction turbine. That means the flow of water through a Francis turbine runner that takes place in the inward radial direction. Modern Francis turbines are mixed flow turbines. Mixed flow refers to the combination of radial and axial flow. Francis turbines are medium head and medium discharge turbines. Francis turbine essentially requires a draft tube. Functions and the theory of draft tubes we will discuss in detail in the second module. In this sectioned view of the Francis turbine, you can see the casing. See, these circular shapes represent the casing, which has essentially the shape of a spiral, which is also called a scroll casing or spiral casing, or even volute casing. And this is the runner with vanes, and outside the runner with vanes and inside the casing will be having stationary guide vanes and additional stay vanes. And here the runner shaft is vertical and the runner is in the horizontal plane. And this is the draft tube to discharge water coming out of the turbine outlet to the tail race. These pictures will give you a better idea on Francis turbine components. Here we have the scroll casing or volute casing, and this is the shaft, and this is the draft tube to discharge water from the turbine exit to the tail race. And this draft tube has a peculiar shape now, and here at the outlet it is circular, and at the exit of the draft tube, here we have a rectangular shape. So this is essentially a draft tube with a circular inlet and a rectangular outlet. There are different types of draft tubes available, and this is one of them. If you consider this peculiar shape of the scroll casing, you can understand that the flow area, that is sections of this spiral tube, if you consider, the area will keep on decreasing from the inlet to the exit. So the flow area reduces as water flows through this spiral casing. So that is a hydraulic function. So it essentially converts the pressure energy of water into kinetic energy as the flow progresses through the casing. And inside the casing, we will be having stationary guide vanes, a wheel fitted with guide vanes, and also some stay vanes outside, and they are stationary to guide the flow of water or to regulate the flow and the flow angle. See, this is essentially the runner of a Francis turbine, and here we have the radially mounted vanes on the runner. Unlike in the case of Pelton wheel, where the vanes are mounted on the periphery of the wheel, here the vanes are mounted radially on this runner. Only the runner vanes are rotating. Water enters circumferentially in this volute casing and then flows inward radially. See, as you can see this, circumferentially entering and flows inward radially, first through the stay vanes and then through the guide vanes. Guide vanes are fitted on a wheel called guide vane wheel, which is stationary. Those are also called wicket gates, and they will regulate and guide the flow at proper angle to the runner vanes. So we know that the runner vanes are fitted or mounted radially on the runner wheel, and that is fitted on this shaft. And after passing through the runner vanes and getting the energy transferred on the runner vanes, after the energy conversion and energy transformation, we have the flow discharged axially through the draft tube. See, at the exit of the turbine runner, the flow leaves axially and then finally discharged to the tail race through this draft tube. All the components we have discussed so far are available in this two-dimensional schematic diagram of Francis turbine, and this is the top view and this one is the front view. In both views, the sectional details are available, and here this is the scroll casing or volute casing, and here we have the stay vanes, and inside that we have a wheel fitted with the guide vanes, and inside this guide vane wheel we have the runner, and these are the runner vanes, and this is a shaft. And if you take a section at this level, then you can get this sectional front view. And in this view, here we have the scroll casing and stay vanes, and inside you have the guide vanes or what you call wicket gates, and here you have the runner, and this is the runner shaft, and this part is the draft tube. Here the tail race is indicated. Some portion of the draft tube is below the tail race and the water, and some portion is above. And the water flow is indicated in this diagram. The water flow is entering the casing and it circumferentially enters and flows inward radially through the guide vanes. Here guide vanes are indicated. The stay vanes are not shown in this diagram. And here this guide vane wheel is stationary, and inside the guide vane wheel we have the rotating runner, and on the runner we have the vanes mounted radially. These are the runner vanes, and here we have the shaft. And regarding the energy conversion, this scroll casing has an important hydraulic function to perform. That is, it converts the pressure energy of water into kinetic energy because of the reduction in flow area. And even through the guide, even while flowing through the guide vanes and even through the runner vanes, the progressively that reduction in flow area occurs. So throughout the flow, through the casing, then through the guide vanes, and then through the runner vanes, the flow reduction in flow area occurs, and consequently there is energy conversion from pressure energy to kinetic energy. And finally, that energy is transferred, increased kinetic energy is transferred on the runner vane. What I mean to say is, there is energy transfer as well as energy transformation or energy conversion in the case of reaction turbines. So there is both impulse action and reaction in a reaction turbine. In other words, the work done by water on the runner in a reaction turbine is partly by impulse action and the remaining by the reaction. But the reaction part will dominate it. So almost entirely the work done is due to reaction and the remaining by the impulse action. In an impulse turbine, the work done is totally due to impulse action. But in a reaction turbine, the work done by water on the runner is partly due to impulse action and almost entirely the remaining portion by the reaction. The reaction arises out of the reduction in pressure from inlet to the turbine to the outlet. So the reduction in pressure is responsible for the reaction part. Now we will discuss important differences between impulse and reaction turbines. In an impulse turbine, as we have seen in the case of Pelton turbine, the entire available energy of water is converted into kinetic energy before it enters the turbine runner. That means the entire energy available with water is converted into kinetic energy in a nozzle, and then that water with the kinetic energy alone and the pressure at atmospheric level is entering the turbine runner in the case of impulse turbines. But in the case of reaction turbine, only a portion of the fluid energy is converted into kinetic energy before the fluid enters the turbine runner. That is water entering through the penstock to the casing of a reaction turbine. So that will possess both pressure energy and kinetic energy, and throughout the fluid, through the casing, and then consequently through the stationary guide vanes and all, only a portion of the fluid energy is converted to kinetic energy. So when it enters the turbine runner blades, the fluid will be possessing, here the water will be possessing both pressure and kinetic energy. The pressure is not atmospheric. And in impulse turbine, the work is done only by the change in kinetic energy of the jet. That means only the change in dynamic head. So that is responsible for the work done on the Pelton turbine, or for that matter impulse turbine in general. That means only the impulse action is there to produce work in an impulse turbine. Whereas in a reaction turbine, the work is done partly by the change in velocity head, that is impulse action, and almost entirely by the change in pressure head. The change in pressure head is essentially causing the reaction. Change in static pressure head. The change in dynamic head is responsible for the impulse action. Please note that the change in dynamic head is responsible for impulse action or energy transfer, and the change in static pressure head is the cause of a reaction or energy transformation from pressure to kinetic. Now in an impulse turbine, the turbine unit is installed above the tail race, and the draft tube is not at all required for an impulse turbine, since it operates entirely at atmospheric pressure after the flow is leaving the nozzle. In a reaction turbine, a draft tube is essential. If a draft tube is used, then the turbine unit can be installed above the tail race. In the absence of draft tube, the turbine unit should be entirely submerged in water below the tail race. That means the entire turbine unit should be installed below the tail race, and that will make the inspection and periodic maintenance and repair very difficult. And if you use a draft tube, the turbine unit can be installed above the tail race, and the periodic inspection and maintenance can be done properly. And in addition to that, if draft tube is used, then that will increase the net pressure head on which the turbine works. Draft tube converts some portion of the kinetic energy of water leaving the turbine exit into useful pressure head before it is discharged. Otherwise that kinetic energy would have been wasted. and we will consider those functions later. In an impulse turbine, the casing has no hydraulic function to perform. And in an impulse turbine, the jet is unconfined, that is, it is a free jet, it is delivered at atmospheric pressure. So thus, casing serves only to prevent splashing of water. So only to prevent the danger of splashing, we use a casing in case of impulse turbine. And casing, in other words, the casing in an impulse turbine has no hydraulic function to perform. But in a reaction turbine, the casing has got absolute hydraulic function. And the casing is absolutely necessary because the pressure at inlet to the turbine is very much higher than the pressure at outlet. In fact, the pressure at outlet of a reaction turbine is vacuum, that is below atmospheric. So a pressure tight casing is required. So throughout the flow from the turbine inlet to the outlet, the pressure is progressively reduced. So the unit has to be sealed from the atmospheric pressure. When water glides over the moving vanes in an impulse turbine, the relative velocity remains constant, that we have already discussed. That is, in case of a pure impulse turbine, ideally the relative velocity remains constant at inlet and outlet of the vane, but it decreases slightly due to the blade friction. You know that VR2 is equal to K times VR1 in an impulse turbine, where K is the blade surface friction coefficient and the value of which is from 0.8 to 0.9. So theoretically, the relative velocity remains constant in an impulse turbine, and practically the relative velocity decreases slightly due to the blade surface friction. But in a reaction turbine, the relative velocity increases as it flows over the runner vanes. When the flow passes between the blades of a reaction turbine runner, the flow area progressively decreases. As a result, the pressure energy is converted to kinetic energy. So that reflects in the increase in the relative velocity. Then the flow regulation is possible without energy loss, or a light duty governing is only required in the case of impulse turbine. We know that in a Pelton turbine, an oil pressure governing system is employed. That is a light duty governing system. There is not much energy loss in the flow regulation process in an impulse turbine. But since the reaction turbines handle higher discharges, heavy duty governing is essential, especially axial flow reaction turbines which handles higher discharges. In a reaction turbine, the flow regulation is not possible without energy loss. Heavy duty governing systems are essential in reaction turbines, such as Francis turbine and in particular Kaplan turbine, which is axial flow reaction turbine. Impulse turbines are best suited for low flow rate, that is low discharge, and high head situations. And we have already discussed that Pelton turbines are suitable for heads over 300 meters. Practically from 300 meters to say 2000 meters, the Pelton turbines are recommended and they will give better performance. But reaction turbines are best suited for high flow rate, higher discharges, and lower head situations. For example, Francis turbines are best suited for head situations or head ranges from 100 meters to 300 meters. Axial flow reaction turbines like Kaplan turbines, which has higher discharges, they are best suited with very low heads, that is heads less than 50-60 meters. In an impulse turbine, the runner does not run full. That means only a portion of the runner will be in contact with water, and the air has free access to the buckets of vanes, and that we have already discussed that the pressure is atmospheric throughout the operation in an impulse turbine. But in a reaction turbine, it's a pressure tight casing and the water completely fills the vein passages and the runner always runs full. In other words, the runner is always flooded with water. Now we'll consider the velocity triangles of Francis turbine at inlet and outlet of the runner vane. For that purpose, we will consider this runner, and on this runner so many runner vanes are radially mounted, and out of which we will consider one such vane. Remember, these stationary guide vanes are directing the flow of water to the runner vane so that the water enters tangentially at the inlet to the runner tip, inlet to the runner vane without shock. Now we will consider this runner vane, and it is a part of the runner shown over here, and 2 points have been indicated, 1 and 2. 1 is the inlet tip and 2 is the outlet tip. Remember, 2 is the part of the inner circle of representing the runner, and 1 is the part of the outer circle representing the runner. So therefore, the diameter at 1, so that means diameter at the inlet, so that is the external diameter of the runner, and diameter at the outlet, that is 0.2, that is D2, so that is the inner diameter of the runner. So obviously D1 is greater than D2, and we know that if n is the rotational speed of the runner in RPM, then the tangential speed of the runner or the velocity of vane at 1, that is u1, is equal to pi d1 n by 60. That is the tangential velocity of the wheel at inlet here, and the tangential velocity of the wheel at outlet, that is u2, is equal to pi d2 n by 60. Since d1 is greater than d2, obviously u1 will be greater than u2. O is the center of the runner, and the distance from O to the point 1, that is inlet, O1 is equal to R1, which is equal to D1 by 2. Similarly, the point 2, that is outlet, that is at a radial distance R2 from the center of the runner O. That is the distance from point O to the point 2, that is the outlet, O2, that is equal to R2, that is equal to D2 by 2. And now you consider the two tangential directions at inlet and outlet. See, this is the tangent drawn at the point 1 to the circle. Remember, to the circle representing the runner. That is this one, where the radius is R1, and if you draw a line perpendicular to the radius O1, that is this line, that indicates the direction of motion of the vane at inlet. Similarly, the direction of motion of the vane at outlet, that is a line perpendicular to O2 at the point 2. So 2 is the outlet. So if you draw a tangent to the runner wheel at the point 2 perpendicular to the radius O2, which is equal to R2, so that is this line, that will indicate the direction of motion of the vane at outlet. So here the direction of motion of the vane at inlet, or direction of u1, is this one, and the direction of u2 is this one. That is the direction of motion of the vane at outlet, or the direction of tangential velocity of vane at outlet. And now we will complete the velocity triangle. Here the water enters with an absolute velocity v1. You may be remembering the velocity triangle for the unsymmetrical vane, and in that case we have considered this type of a velocity triangle. It is more or less the same. So the guide vanes will be directing water and guiding water so that it enters at the inlet tip, that is 1, without shock. For shockless entry, we know that the relative velocity must be tangential to the blade surface at inlet. Remember, tangential to the blade surface to the inlet, not tangential to the runner at inlet. See, tangential to the runner at inlet is the direction of u1, and this is tangential to the blade surface at inlet. So VR1. So for shockless entry, VR1 must be made tangential, and for that purpose the absolute velocity of water V1 should be directed in properly at an angle, say alpha, which is guide vane angle at inlet. So the guide vane angle at inlet is alpha. So V1 is so directed that VR1 is made tangential to the blade surface at inlet 1. So first of all we mark V1. So V1 is directed at an angle alpha to the direction of motion of the vane at inlet. So inclination of V1 with U1, that is alpha. And at the tip of this velocity vector, if you mark U1, let's say that is this much magnitude, then the third side of the triangle, this will be VR1. But remember, VR1 must be tangential to the blade surface at inlet. And for that purpose, this alpha is the angle at which the water must be guided by the guided vane to the runner vane. So once you complete the triangle by marking V1, U1 and this VR1, the velocity triangle at inlet is complete. Remember, the inclination of VR1 with the direction of motion U1, so that is theta. And if you draw two rectangular components for V1, that is one along U1 and one perpendicular to U1, then you will get VW1 and VF1. So we are already familiar with these two components, VW1 and VF1. And VW1 is the component of V1 in the direction of U1, which is called world component of velocity at inlet. And component of V1 perpendicular to U1, that is called flow component of velocity, VF1. That is this component. And note the directions of VW1 and VF1. So now the inlet velocity triangle is over. So this is similar to the velocity triangle we got in the case of unsymmetrical moving vane. And the same terminologies can be used. Alpha is the guide vane angle or guide blade angle at inlet. Theta is the vane angle or blade angle at inlet. And now we will consider the outlet velocity triangle. In normal case, the world component of velocity at outlet in the case of a Francis turbine is made 0. So that means the flow is radial at outlet. So flow is radial at outlet, so that means this V2 must be along the radius. So that is the key point in the construction of outlet velocity triangle. So remember, 2 is the outlet and the direction of the tangent to the blade surface at outlet, that is this one, along which your VR2 will proceed. And obviously we know that VR2 will be greater than VR1, not like impulse turbine where VR2 is ideally equal to VR1 and actual practice VR2 will be less than VR1 in impulse turbines. But in the case of reaction turbines, VR2 obviously must be greater than VR1 because of the increase in kinetic energy of flow as the water flows through the runner vanes. So VR2 must be greater than VR1. So that increased magnitude of VR2 that must be marked along the tangent to the blade surface at outlet. So after marking that, so at the tip of VR2 vector, what you should do? So we will mark U2 then. What is U2? U2 is the tangential velocity of the vane at outlet. That is U2 is equal to pi d2 n by 60. And U2 will be obviously less than U1. So that smaller U2, so we will mark. And what is its direction? It must be parallel to the direction of motion marked over here. What is its direction of motion? It is perpendicular to the radius O2. So the tangential direction or tangential velocity of the wheel at outlet, so that is perpendicular to the radius. So perpendicular to the radius you have this velocity vector u2. So let it be the magnitude, this be the magnitude of u2. We already confirmed that for a Francis turbine usually VW2 will be 0. So that means the world component of velocity at outlet in the case of Francis turbine is equal to 0. Therefore, this V2 must be along the radius. So V2 is along the radius and U2 is this much and VR2 is along the tangent to the blade surface at outlet, and this right triangle, small right triangle, represents the velocity triangle at outlet. It's very simple. And inclination of VR2 with U2, that is angle phi, that is the vane angle or blade angle at outlet. What about beta? That is the inclination of V2 with the direction of U2, or guide blade angle at outlet, that is 90 in this case because V2 is perpendicular to U2. In other words, we say that the discharge is radial at outlet. VW2 is equal to 0, and what will be VF2 or velocity of flow at outlet? See, velocity of flow means it is a component of the absolute velocity perpendicular to U2. So here the entire component V2 is perpendicular to U2. So that itself is equal to VF2. And moreover, you know that VF2 is equal to V2 sine beta, and beta here is 90. So sine 90, V2 sine 90, that is V2 itself, and V2 here is equal to VF2 then. And VW2 is equal to V2 cos beta. Beta is 90, so cos 90 is 0. So obviously VW2 is 0. So remember these points, beta is 90, VW2 is equal to 0, and V2 is equal to VF2, and the flow is radial at outlet, and or radial component of velocities, that is VF1 and VF2. See, always VF1 and VF2 will be along the radius, so therefore they are also called radial components of flow, that is flow components of velocity, VF1 and VF2. Here VF2 is equal to V2. Can we assess the direction or rotation? Obviously. See, if the water after striking the runner, it is deflected like this, relative velocity, effective velocity with which water strikes is VR1, and that is tangential to the blade surface at 1, and then the deflected jet after transferring the energy, see that goes in this direction, that is VR2, that is tangential to the blade surface at exit, and as a reaction to that, the blade will be moving forward in this direction, that is anti-clockwise in this case. So the rotation n, that will be in the anti-clockwise direction, rotation of the runner on which this type of vanes are mounted radially. And now we have another option to complete the velocity triangle in a simple manner. See, here you can notice that this U1 and U2 are not parallel because inlet 1 and outlet 2, they are not on the same radius. But symbolically, you can represent those two directions, direction of motion at inlet and direction of motion at outlet. So if they are indicated like this, these two dotted lines which are horizontal, and then the velocity triangle will be like this. So just like we have drawn in the case of unsymmetrical moving vane, so you will be able to draw the velocity triangle at inlet here, and then velocity triangle at outlet, which obviously is a smaller one in this case where VW2 is 0. So this in this simple way you can draw you can complete the velocity triangle at inlet and outlet, representing the direction of motion of vane at inlet U1 and U2 like two parallel horizontal lines, see, as indicated by dotted lines over here. The vane angle at inlet is theta, vane angle at outlet is phi, vane angle at inlet theta can be found out from the inlet velocity triangle, that is this opposite side Vf1 divided by this adjacent side, that is Vw1 minus u1. So tan theta is equal to Vf1 by Vw1 minus u1. This trigonometric relation can be used to find out theta for the purpose of solving numerical problems. And also Vw1 is equal to V1 cos alpha, and Vf1 is equal to V1 sin alpha, and angle phi, that is a vane angle at outlet, can be found out from this small right triangle. Tan phi is equal to opposite side by adjacent side, that is V2 divided by U2, and V2 in fact here represents Vf2 as well. Vw2 is 0 and beta of course is 90 in this case. So the various velocity components can be found out by using these two velocity triangles, which are relatively simple. Discuss important relations for Francis turbine. Our common notations: shaft power is equal to P, runner power is equal to rho Qg into He, where He is the oiler head or runner head, which of course is equal to Vw1 u1 minus Vw2 u2 divided by G for any turbine. And net head is indicated by the letter H, which of course is equal to gross head minus frictional head loss HF in the penstock. For Francis turbine, usually Vw2, the velocity of whirl at outlet, is 0. So therefore, the oiler head expression He or runner head is given by Vw1 u1 divided by G, which is relatively simple. Now the water power, we know that water power is equal to rho Qgh, where H is the net head, and the overall efficiency of any turbine is shaft power by water power. So that is P divided by rho Qgh, and Q is the discharge handled by the turbine, H is the net head, rho is the density of water in the case of hydraulic turbine, and G is the gravitational acceleration. The hydraulic efficiency is given by a runner power by water power. So that is equal to rho Qghe divided by rho Qgh. So therefore rho Q and rho Q will be cancelled. You will get He divided by H, that is oiler head or runner head divided by the net head. Now oiler head is given by the expression Vw1 u1 divided by G for a Francis turbine. So therefore if we substitute it over here, we will get a simple expression for hydraulic efficiency. Hydraulic efficiency is equal to runner head He divided by H. Runner head is Vw1 u1 by G. So therefore hydraulic efficiency will be Vw1 u1 divided by Gh. It's an important expression. Mechanical efficiency is the ratio of shaft power to runner power. So that is shaft power divided by runner power is rho Qghe. Now another important equation applicable in the case of reaction turbines is this one, that is net head is equal to oiler head plus the velocity head at outlet of the runner. So at outlet of the vane of the runner, we have the absolute velocity of the jet V2. So the velocity head associated with water at the outlet of the turbine runner is V2 square by 2G. And if you ignore the other losses, other kinetic energy losses, then the net head will be equal to the runner head plus V2 square by 2G. This is very important for solving numerical problems, for relating the runner head with the net head. Now the discharge or the flow rate handled by the Francis turbine. See, you have a cylindrical shaped runner where the flow is entering circumferentially and flows radially inward, and the flow area in that case will be the circumferential area of the runner. And for a cylindrical shaped runner, the circumferential area, that is a curved surface area of the cylinder, that of course is pi into the diameter of the cylindrical part multiplied by the width of the cylindrical part. So if the breadth or width of the runner is B1 at inlet and B2 at outlet, then pi d1 B1, that is the circumferential flow area through which the flow is entering the runner veins all around the circumference. So pi d1 B1, that is the circumferential area multiplied by the flow velocity at inlet, that is Vf1. That is a radial component of the absolute velocity of water at inlet. So pi d1 B1 Vf1, so that is theoretically equal to the discharge or the flow rate that is entering the runner at inlet. Similarly, the flow rate or the discharge handled by the turbine can also be obtained from the outlet conditions. So that is, diameter at the outlet is d2, the width of the runner at outlet is b2, then Vf2 is the radial component of velocity at outlet. So flow area, that is the circumferential area at outlet, that is pi d2 B2 multiplied by Vf2. So that is the expression for the discharge. And for a steady flow through the runner, thus the discharge at inlet and outlet will be the same. Therefore the discharge expressions for a Francis turbine, so that is Q is equal to pi d1 B1 Vf1 or pi d2 B2 Vf2. Remember, B1 and B2 are the breadth or the width of the runner at inlet and outlet respectively. But if you consider the vane thickness, then the flow area is effectively reduced by this vane thickness. So the flow area will be less if you consider the thickness or the area part occupied by the vanes. And if in a numerical problem, if it is given that 10% of the circumferential area is occupied by the vanes, then you have to deduct 10% of this area, that is pi d1 B1 if you consider inlet, pi d2 B2 that is if you consider at outlet, and from which you have to deduct 10% of that. So therefore the effective area of flow then will be 90% of pi d1 B1 at the inlet and 90% of pi d2 B2 at outlet. And if nothing is specified in the numerical problem, you can consider the flow area to be pi d1 B1 at inlet and pi d2 B2 at outlet. And otherwise, if number of vanes are also given, number of vanes along with the thickness of the vanes are also given, and then the area that has to be subtracted from the theoretical area will be n into b into t. So if vane thickness T is given and number of vanes on the runner that is also specified, then the reduction in flow area will be this NB into T. What is N? N is the number of vanes on the runner, B is the width or the breadth of the runner, respective one, inlet B1, outlet B2, and T is the thickness of the vane. So if vane thickness is considered, then the flow area will be pi into D into B minus NBT. Remember, the diameter and width of the runner, at inlet it is D1 and B1 and at outlet D2 and B2 respectively. Now two important ratios in the case of Francis turbine, and here the ratios have been expressed based on the inlet conditions. Usually it is usually these two ratios will be specified based on the inlet conditions. But remember, in the case of Francis turbine, U1 is not equal to U2. U1 is very much greater than U2. The speed ratio based on inlet condition, so K suffix, let us say U1, so that is U1 divided by root of 2GH. And flow ratio, that is denoted by K suffix F. Let it be KF1, that is the flow ratio based on the inlet condition. So Vf1 by root of 2gh. Therefore, the speed ratio Ku1 is equal to u1 by root of 2gh, and flow ratio Vf1 divided by root of 2gh. Flow ratio is denoted by K suffix F. Discuss an important numerical problem on Francis turbine. Question is this: a Francis turbine develops 160 kilowatt at 150 rpm under a net head of 10 meters. The peripheral velocity at inlet and flow velocity at inlet of the turbine are 0.3 times root of 2gh and 0.9 times root of 2gh respectively. The overall efficiency of the turbine is 78% and hydraulic efficiency is 82%. Draw velocity triangle and find 1. guide blade angle and runner vane angle at inlet, and 2. the diameter and width of the runner at inlet. Here the given data: the shaft power, which is denoted by capital letter P, is equal to 160 kilowatt. So that is 160 into 10 to the power of 3 watts. Now the rotational speed of the runner, that is 150 rpm, that is N is equal to 150 rpm. And peripheral velocity at inlet. Peripheral velocity means the tangential velocity of the runner at inlet, that is u1. So u1, that is equal to 0.3 times root of 2gh. The expression is given. And the flow velocity at inlet, that is a flow component or radial component of velocity at inlet, that is Vf1. And Vf1 is equal to 0.9 times root of 2gh. So the expressions are given. So instead of giving you the flow ratio and speed ratio, so we have already studied the speed ratio K suffix u1 based on inlet conditions is equal to Ku1 is equal to u1 divided by root of 2gh. So therefore u1 is equal to Ku times root of 2gh. In fact, this Ku, that the speed ratio at inlet, that is 0.3. And now the flow velocity expression Vf1, the given one is 0.9 into root of 2gh. So we know that the flow ratio K suffix F, that is equal to Vf by root of 2gh. Based on the inlet conditions, K suffix F1 is equal to Vf1 by root of 2gh. Vf1 will be K suffix F1 into root of 2gh. So in fact the flow ratio based on the inlet condition, that is 0.9. So since the expressions are given, it is easy for you. The net head on which the turbine works here, h is equal to 10 meters. Therefore, you can now find out the tangential velocity of the runner at inlet u1 and the flow velocity at inlet Vf1. So u1 is equal to 0.3 into root of 2 into 9.81 into 10. So that is equal to 4.202 meter per second. And Vf1 is equal to 0.9 times root of 2gh, that is 0.9 into root of 2 into 9.81 into 10. That of course is equal to 12.606 meter per second. Now u1 is available now 4.202, and which of course is equal to pi d1 n by 60. So since u1 is available, now we can find out diameter at inlet. So diameter of the runner at inlet d1 can be found out. So therefore d1 is equal to 60 times u1 divided by pi n. So that is 60 times u1 is 4.202 divided by pi into the rotational speed of the runner in rpm, that is 150. So if you operate that, you will get d1 is equal to 0.535 meters. So that is part of the answer. So the runner has a diameter equal to 0.535 meters. And now we will consider the other expressions. See, the overall efficiency is given by shaft power by water power, that is P divided by rho Q G H. And hydraulic efficiency is given by runner power by water power, that is rho Q G H E divided by rho Q G H. And the velocity triangle we have to draw because that is a part of the question. So this is the velocity triangle we discussed previously. with the world velocity component at outlet is 0. And now we will consider the remaining part of the question. Now the velocity triangle, from this velocity triangle, so we can formulate the relationship like tan theta is equal to Vf1 by Vw1 minus u1, which we discussed previously. Now the hydraulic efficiency. See, the hydraulic efficiency is given in the question 82%. And we know a simple expression for the hydraulic efficiency of Francis turbine, which of course is obtained from runner power by water power. Rho Q G H E divided by rho Q G H, and that is H E by H, that is oiler head or runner head divided by net head, and that oiler head is Vw1 U1 by G for a Francis turbine. So therefore hydraulic efficiency of a Francis turbine can be expressed as Vw1 U1 divided by GH when Vw2 is 0. So Vw1 U1 divided by GH is equal to 0.82. And we already have the tangential velocity at inlet U1 is equal to 4.202 meter per second. And the flow component of velocity Vf1, which is equal to 12.606 meter per second. And before proceeding with this relation, let us find out the discharge handled by the turbine. See, the overall efficiency is given as 78%. And the shaft power is 160 into 10 raised to 3 watts. So shaft power by water power P divided by rho Q GH, that is overall efficiency, which in this case is 0.78. So from this we can get the discharge Q. So the discharge Q is equal to the shaft power P, that is 160 into 10 raised to 3 divided by this overall efficiency 0.78 into rho, that is 1000 kilogram per meter cube for water, that is mass density, into gravitational acceleration 9.81, then into H, that is the net head. So if you work out, you will get discharge is equal to 2.091 meter cube per second. See, this discharge, this is in liter per second, it is equal to 2091. So more than 2000 liters per second. That is the discharge handled by the turbine. Now we'll go back to the hydraulic efficiency expression. What is that? Vw1 U1 divided by GH for the Francis turbine when Vw2 is 0. So that is equal to 82%, that is 0.82. So Vw1 U1 by GH is equal to 0.82, and Vf, this U1 is known, H is known, and G is available. We will be in a position to find out Vw1. So Vw1 is equal to 0.82, that is the hydraulic efficiency, multiplied by GH divided by this U1. So when you operate it, you will get 19.144 meter per second. So that is Vw1, world component of velocity at inlet. And the discharge we already obtained 2.091 meter cube per second. See, we know that the discharge Q based on the inlet dimensions and the inlet flow component of velocity, it is equal to pi d1 b1 vf1. And here the diameter at inlet we found out already, that is 0.535 meters or 53.5 centimeters. That is the diameter of the Francis turbine runner at inlet. And pi d1 b1 vf1 is equal to q, and b1 is equal to q divided by pi d1 into vf1. And the discharge in meter cube per second 2.091 divided by pi into diameter 0.535 into Vf1 is 12.606. And if you do this, you will get the breadth or width of the runner at inlet, that is 0.099 meter or 9.9 centimeters, nearly 10 centimeters it is. That is the width of the runner at inlet. That's a part of the answer. Now from the velocity triangle, the vane angle at inlet theta can be found out. Tan theta is given by Vf1 by Vw1 minus u1. Tan theta is equal to Vf1, that is 12.606 divided by Vw1 minus u1, that is 19.144 minus 4.202. So we'll get 0.844. So tan theta is has this value and theta is equal to tan inverse of that, that is 40.15 degrees. So vane angle at inlet is 40.15 degrees. Now we have to find out guide blade angle at inlet. That is the part of the question. So tan alpha, how do we find out tan alpha in this case? From the inlet velocity triangle, if you take tan alpha, opposite side is Vf1 and adjacent side is Vw1. So tan alpha is equal to Vf1 by Vw1, that is 12.606 divided by 19.144. That is equal to 0.658, that is tan alpha, and alpha is equal to tan inverse of that. So you'll get alpha is 33.36 degrees. That is the guide blade or guide vane angle at inlet. Very quickly we will discuss one more problem. An inward flow reaction turbine has external and internal diameters as 0.9 meters and 0.45 meters respectively. The turbine is running at 200 rpm and the width of the runner at the inlet is 0.2 meters. The velocity of flow through the runner is constant and is equal to 1.8 meter per second. The guide blades make an angle of 10 degrees to the tangent of the wheel and the discharge at the outlet of the runner is radial. Draw the inlet and outlet velocity triangles and determine the relative velocity at inlet, that is Vr1, the runner blade angles, that is alpha and that is theta and phi, theta at inlet and phi at outlet, the width of the runner at outlet, width of the runner at outlet, that is B2, the head at the inlet of the turbine, that is the net head, that is capital H. We have to find out power developed, and this is since mechanical efficiency is not specified, this is runner power developed, then hydraulic efficiency of the turbine. And now this is the velocity triangle which we are familiar with. See, inward flow reaction turbine. So here the name Francis turbine is not mentioned, so we will consider the case of a Francis turbine since it is given that it's an inward flow reaction turbine. So we consider that it is an inward radial flow reaction turbine, which of course is a Francis turbine. And external diameter, that is the diameter at the inlet, that is 1. So D1 is equal to 0.9 meters. So that is given, and at the runner outlet or the inner diameter, that is 0.45 meters. Don't get confused. The external diameter corresponds to the diameter of the wheel at inlet, and the inner diameter of the runner, that corresponds to the outlet conditions of the vane. Okay, so D1 is the external diameter of the runner, that is 0.9 meters in this case, or diameter at the inlet. So diameter at the outlet, that corresponds to the inner or smaller diameter of the runner, that is D2, in this case is 0.45 meters, and the rotational speed of the turbine runner in RPM is 200. And U1, we know that it's pi D1n by 60, which of course you can calculate pi into 0.9 into 200 by 60, that is 9.425 meter per second. So the tangential speed of the runner at inlet. The tangential speed of the runner at outlet, U2, is equal to pi D2n by 60, that is pi into 0.45 into 200 by 60, that is equal to 4.712 meter per second. And now we will proceed further. It is given that the velocity of flow through the runner is constant. So that means the radial component of flow velocity Vf1 is equal to Vf2, that is equal to 1.8 meter per second. And width of the turbine runner at inlet B1, that is given 0.2 meters. And guide blade angle at the inlet alpha, that is also given as 10 degrees. So what we can do is, after considering the velocity triangle and formulate a relationship for theta, that is tan theta. Tan theta is equal to Vf1 divided by Vw1 minus U1. We discussed this already. Here tan alpha is equal to Vf1 divided by Vw1. Tan alpha is equal to Vf1 opposite side by adjacent side Vw1. And Vf1 we know, that is velocity of flow 1.8 meter per second, and alpha is 10 degrees. So therefore Vw1 is equal to Vf1 by tan alpha. So that is 1.8 divided by tan 10 degrees. So 10.208. So that is VW1. That is world component of velocity at inlet we found out. Now we will use the relation tan theta is equal to Vf1 by Vw1 minus u1 in order to find out theta. That is the vane angle at inlet. So tan theta is Vf1 by Vw1 minus u1. That is 1.8 divided by 10.208 minus 9.425. And you will get tan theta as 2.299 and theta is equal to tan inverse of that. You will get 66.49 degrees. So that is the part of the answer, that is a vane angle or blade angle at inlet. Now sin theta, from this triangle you can formulate a relationship for sin theta. So sin theta is equal to opposite side Vf1 by the hypotenuse Vr1. So Vf1 by Vr1 is equal to sin theta. So Vr1 is equal to Vf1 by sin theta. So 1.8 divided by sine of this vane angle 66.49. So you will get relative velocity at inlet, that is 1.963 meter per second. That is a part of the answer, relative velocity of water at inlet. Now tan phi you can find out from the outlet velocity triangle. So tan phi is opposite side by adjacent side, that is V2 divided by U2. And you know that since VW2 is 0 and beta is 90, V2 itself is equal to Vf2. And tan phi is equal to Vf2 divided by U2. And V2 is equal to Vf2, that is 1.8 meter per second. Tan phi is equal to V2 divided by U2. So that is 1.8 divided by 4.712. So we will get angle phi. That is the vane angle or blade angle at outlet. That is a part of the answer. Now the discharge. So the discharge handled by the turbine Q based on the inlet parameters, that is pi d1 b1 vf1. Since the vane thickness and all is not specified, so we will try to take the ideal case. So pi d1 b1 is a circumferential flow area at inlet multiplied by the flow velocity component vf1. So pi into diameter d1 is 0.9, breadth at inlet or width of the runner at inlet is 0.2, that's given, into vf1. That's also given 1.8. So the discharge handled by the turbine is 1.0179 meter cube per second. So more than 1000 liters per second it is. Now we know that discharge is also equal to pi d2 b2 vf2 based on the outlet parameters. So if you use that, then you can arrive at b2. So Q is equal to pi d2 b2 vf2 and b2 is equal to Q divided by pi d2 into vf2, and the discharge is 1.0179 meter cube per second divided by pi into diameter at outlet is 0.45 multiplied by 1.8. So b2 is equal to 0.4 meters. b2 is the width of the runner at outlet. Now head of the turbine at inlet, or the effective head or net head available for producing useful work, that is net head H. So we already know H is equal to the oiler head plus the kinetic head of water at the turbine outlet. Net head H is equal to oiler head HE plus V2 square by 2G. And V2 is equal to Vf2 is equal to 1.8 meter per second. And oiler head HE, that is VW1 U1 divided by G. Oiler head or runner head HE is equal to 10.208, that is VW1 into U1 is 9.425 divided by 9.81. So we'll get 9.807 meters of water. So now H is equal to oiler head 9.807 plus V2 square by 2G, that is 1.8 square by 2 into 9.81. So we'll get 9.973 meters of water. So the net head for producing useful work available at the turbine inlet is equal to 9.973 meters. Now the runner power developed. So runner power developed is equal to rho QG into runner head HE. So that is 97,928.77 watts. Now hydraulic efficiency is given by eta H is equal to runner power by water power. So that is HE by H. So 9.807 divided by 9.973. So 0.9833, which in percentage is 98.33 percentage. With this, I wind up the lecture. Happy learning. Thank you so much.